This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening. Welcome to Stars International. My name is Frank Allen, and I will be your host this evening. The views and opinions expressed on our show are not necessarily the views or opinions of Targeted Massachusetts or Stars International. And thank you, we are rolling. Okay, Janet, are you here? Okay, that might be her. Janet, is that you? Okay, somebody, caller 9 is trying to speak, and I'm not. Caller 8, try and get your dog under control. And when you do, star 6, and you'll be able to speak. I've got some great news today from my mass mailing company. They split, so far anyway. And as you know, or for those of you who didn't know, Janet Phalen will be our guest this evening. And she will be talking to us from Latin America. Okay, Janet, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll mute the room for you, and you can start. This is around the time people will be pouring in, so it's actually a good time to start. And I will give you the floor now. Speak one time, Janet, so I can find you.
Sure, I am speaking.
Okay, good. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I think I'll start by introducing myself. I'll say a little bit about myself. My name, of course, is Janet Phalen. I'm a journalist by profession, and I fled the United States 10 years ago following the circumstances that are discussed in my 2016 book, which was published in 2016, called Exile. And the book goes into details of basically how targeting started, and goes into excruciating detail about the murder of my mother, Dr. Emily Phalen, which is the circumstance that began this adventures in targeting, right? So at the time that I wrote the book, I had figured that a lot of people wouldn't believe me, that the things even the things I was saying that had happened to my mother, which were being authorized by a court, they wouldn't believe me. So I decided that it would be really good to put a lot of documents in an appendix in the book. So the book has about 50 pages of external documentation that shows horrific and murderous levels of corruption by their own documentation of judges, police officers, members of the California Department of Justice. It just goes on and on. So the part of the book where I discuss what began to happen to me as I tried more and more desperately to protect my mother, the targeting that I began to experience does not have external documentation. As some people who are beginning to know a little bit about me know, I am not being victimized with electronic weapons. I am being victimized with chemical weapons, which actually leave a fairly large footprint More so, I believe, in electronic weapons. I have I have an enormous amount of proof about these weapons. What I don't have is any agency willing to accept my evidence. I have contacted the Office on the Prevention of Chemical Weapons, which is the governing agency in charge of the Chemical Weapons Convention, international treaty. Their offices are lodged at The Hague. They refuse to accept my evidence. I also filed a rather uh, a comprehensive report with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights after I fled the U.S., going into quite a bit of detail with quite a bit of documented proof concerning the legal shenanigans I was being subjected to, or illegal shenanigans, rather. I filed that with the IACHR. I offered to actually get to them the proof of chemical weapons usage, and they refused to accept that proof. So I sit basically here in Latin America on a chemical weapons cache, which nobody seems to want to deal with at all. So it's a rather frightening situation, I think, that a lot of us are in, because we are being horribly attacked. We have proof that we're being attacked, and those who are dedicated to protecting people, that would be legal agencies, members of government, human rights groups, they all back away like crazy. So this is sort of a bad situation, I think, for all of us. So I think I could start a little bit talking about what happened to my mother, and then I can go into, I think, a little more information about my own situation. My mother, the future of my mother's prospects for continuing to survive ended up to be extremely interwoven with my own. And I was approached in 2002 by a shadowy figure. He turned out to be very shadowy, who went by the name Jack Smith. Turned out not to be his given name, not his real name. And I was lured into a romantic relationship with him, starting in, did I say 2002? I meant 2000. So I was lured into a romantic relationship with him, and I actually ended up living with him for a while. Actually, you can find, in Googling me, you can find some of the websites actually list his address as my former address, which was 7911 West Norton, West Hollywood. Well, Jack Smith ended up to be a federal agent. And there are documents that are archived in my book, Exile, which rather definitively point to this. These are documents which actually bear his own signature. So I became actually a target of the federal government, and the person in charge of the situation was Agent Jack Smith. And it appears that his mandate was to murder my mother, and apparently may have also included a mandate to murder me. That is a little less clear, but certainly to murder my mother. So the progress of what happened to my mother is very carefully delineated and laid out in Exile, and involved a attempt on her life in the beginning of 2000 and 2, and then when I rushed her to the hospital to save her life, I was hit with a restraining order, which said that there was no reason to take my critically ill mother to the hospital. I do have also in the book, of course, are her medical records for the hospitalization, showing that she was actually dying. And there's also proof in the book concerning the judge's own minute order that I was permanently restrained from my mother without a hearing. The incredible Kafka-esque sort of legal machinations that were instituted in order to murder her are simply beyond belief. So that actually was the core situation that began this particular adventure for me. So I'm going to pause for a second and have a drink of water. Do you have any questions or anything you want to say here, Frank?
Yeah, your story is very interesting, and I'm curious as to what single occurrence caused you to leave the U.S.
Right. I left the U.S. following her death. Well, actually, I left twice. I left when I first started to be severely attacked, and then I came. I was detained in a foreign country, and barely got out of that in one piece, and then decided to come back and give it my best shot. So when I ultimately left permanently, which was in 2008, my mother was already dead. I was at that point in time working as a journalist, working as a reporter for a independent alternative newspaper in Oregon, and I was also at that point in time hosting 2 radio shows every week. One was on KSKQ, which was is a Pacifica affiliate in Ashland, Oregon, and I also had a show on Republic Broadcasting Network, which was nationally syndicated. And I had been having mounting problems with all kinds of really nasty things happening to me, and then suddenly found myself under investigation by the Medford Police Department, and who were trying very hard to pretend that I wasn't under investigation. However, I did get my hands on at least one document, which is also reproduced in the book, showing that there were some grave problems with what the police said they were doing concerning me and what they were really doing. And the document was of such concern to me that I decided to pick up and leave the country. Now, I want to make really clear that along this journey of mine, I had already had I had experienced horrific assault by police officers in Southern California, which is where all of this began. I was living in Long Beach at the time. This was surrounding what was happening to my mother while she was still alive, and that assault took place on January 3rd of 2003, and I was conscious and in a coma for several days. So when I realized that I was facing imminent arrest for something, I have no idea. I still have no idea what this was all about, Medford. I didn't think that my prospects of surviving the arrest would be very good. Just to make clear, when I was assaulted by the officers in Long Beach, this assault is detailed extensively in the book. Also, I name the lead officer who led the assault, and also other people who were present at the time that I was injured. close to death. Basically, I was never arrested by the Long Beach Police Department. There's no arrest. There was no crime. I was simply corralled and taken to be put down. So when it appeared that that everything was beginning to rear up again, and the police were again beginning to target me in a way that I didn't think I could survive, I decided to leave the U.S. And so I left in 2008. I have not come back.
Okay, weren't the police relatively leery of playing around with somebody that was a journalist?
Well, one might think so. One of the things that I try to stress in the book is that at the time that all this was happening, I was not a working journalist. I had been, and I had done university and graduate school and had worked as a journalist. But at the time that this was going on, I was not a working journalist. I'd been having some rather debilitating medical problems, and I had taken disability, and I wasn't working. So any protection that I may have had by being a working journalist was rendered moot at that point in time. So the answer to that is sort of equivocal, I would say. I also want to say that I come from a journalistic family, and that my father, Jim Phalen, was a journalist during his period, his tenure on Earth. He was a journalist of some note. He had written for many years for the Saturday Evening Post, and when the Post closed in 1969, he basically worked freelance for publications like Forbes, Fortune, Esquire. His first book came out in 1976 and made the cover of Time magazine. So one might wonder if his connections could have assisted me. And
Janet, I have a question.
Sure.
Did you publish an article about any one person that you think may have started the ball rolling?
No, I do not believe that this is what this was about at all. Okay. I believe that I do not, and I try to make that clear in the book, that this was not at least at that time, what happened at that time was not a result of any exceptional journalistic investigative work I'd done. I try to make it very clear that I was a person who was disabled, who was very vulnerable, and who was unprotected. And I go in later in the book, and I don't want to go into this in detail on this call, but I go into why I think this happened to us, why my mother was chosen to be murdered, okay, and what kind of demographic we were in that might have qualified us for this. But I want to make very clear that when this began, this was an attack on an older woman, my mother had a wonderful career as a clinical psychologist, but she was retired, and on her daughter, who was unprotected, low-hanging fruit, and vulnerable, and without the resources to garner the kind of protection that a working journalist might. Now, I think at this point in time, Frank, that whatever the original impetus about this was, it has altered enormously due to my the fact that I have been attempting rather diligently to use my journalistic skills to expose what happened to her, what's happening to other people. What is the deal with the U.S. now? What is the motivating impetus that is not only allowing, but endorsing the kinds of situations that people discuss on your show. And I've come to some conclusions which I think depart a little bit, maybe not too much, but depart a little bit from some of the general consensus. And my background, my investigative skills and background are very strong. And I've been able to get levels of proof, certainly about certain kinds of irregularities within the U.S. government that I think are rather singular and needed to be done. And I think that what is happening to me now with the siege that I'm under now, it is related more to the journalistic efforts than the original situation, was. So I hope that's clear.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a path to the watch list. All you have to do is say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and you'll appear on this list. And Richard Lighthouse has detailed the actual form someone would fill out to get on this list. But that's incredible, Janet.
I would really like to see that. I have not seen that from Richard Lighthouse, and I would like very much to see that. At this point in time, it's very clear that we're, as far as the U.S. and its originating construction, a place for equality, liberty, justice, it's very clear that we've gone off into the woods. And I think the question for a lot of people is, well, what the heck's going on? And I've worked on a couple of disparate issues. For example, I broke a story. I was writing for the San Bernardino County Sentinel, and this was actually after I left the U.S. I was doing my stories and putting them in remotely, and I stumbled upon a rather extensively well-greased mechanism through which public officials are being funneled bribes and payoffs. And you can find these records fairly easily. The fact that no other journalists reported on this is, is a bit disturbing, but that's changing now. There's, basically I published the first article about this in 2009, and then about a year ago, I decided that I needed to train more people in how to do this particular research to find the evidence of bribery and payoff. Judges, prosecutors, all our good, honorable so-and-sos are apparently being paid off under the table to throw cases. So at this point in time, we have a whole crop of people that I trained last year when I did the webinar, and we have other people now picking up on this. In fact, I was sent a rather stunning press release just today by some people in the state of Oregon who used my research method to look at the U.S. Attorney Annette Hayes in Oregon, and have found evidence that the U.S. Attorney I'm sorry, did I say Oregon? I meant Washington. That the U.S. Attorney in Washington was being bribed under the table. So press release, I'm hoping, will be picked up widely, at least by independent media, if not the New York Times. And there's also a reporter out in Los Angeles who happens to be a lawyer who has picked up on the research method and is now looking specifically at judges and finding the same evidence of unacceptable levels of corruption. So that's just one of my efforts.
You mentioned The Hague.
Yeah.
You said that your evidence was in fact refused there.
Yes, it was refused.
Can you circumstances?
Yes, I contacted The Hague in writing, explained to them what the situation was and what I had, and I asked, for a secure method to get, evidence of chemical weapons over to them, and they wrote me back saying, well, you need to go to the national authorities. Now, I want to explain something here. If I were a Syrian, if I were in Damascus, and I got hit with a gas attack in Damascus, and I contacted the Chemical Weapons Convention, they would be in Damascus in a heartbeat. They would not be telling the Syrian to contact Assad, okay? The national authorities, Assad. They would be there, and CNN would be right behind them, filming all these atrocities and very possibly misreporting the genesis of the chemical weapons attacks in Syria. They don't tell Syrians, go contact Assad, leave us alone. But I have it in writing from The Hague. Contact the nationals, contact the perpetrators, contact the people who tried to kill you and complain about it. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, it's chemical weapons. That's really something. Now, have you
it's really something.
Actually what those chemical weapons were in terms of the exact chemical, I guess?
That's where you need the analysts and the people at The Hague. I'm not a chemist.
Right.
I am certainly aware, for example, as most people would be, if I was hit with some kind of poison, I'd be aware, that I might have almost died. And I may be aware of exactly what kind of delivery system I had run into. There are various ways to deliver these kinds of things. There are gases. People, there are problematic possible consumables. There are also weapons that people can lace your clothing, your bedding with, and so in that way they would act as skin absorption. There's a lot of different ways to hurt someone with weapons like this, and the fact that I do have laced clothing, I do have laced bedding.
So,
and the other thing, one more thing I want to say about this is that these are generally military grade weapons. Okay, so you're talking definitely about a state terrorism. So for The Hague to say contact these national authorities, that's almost like telling a Jew in Nazi Germany, whose family just got gassed, go to Hitler and complain about it. I mean, it makes no sense. Okay, sorry, you were going to ask some questions.
Yes. It slipped my mind totally. But I was
sorry
as to whether you had gone to, I think it's INTJ, which is another organization for women and children, and Bill Binney is actually part of this organization.
I don't know INTJ.
I will send you the information on it. They have just heard a targeted case not too long ago, but I will send you the information.
Yeah, I would like to know what that is. INTJ. I'm just doing a quick Google thing here. Is this an organization that has any clout?
They have a clout. Yes, they have a lot of clout, and they go to bat for a lot of people. They just had a targeted individual on there who was the victim of all electronic targeting. There was no apparent gang stalking, to my knowledge.
Hmm.
But do you have any idea of what the delivery system was for your chemical weapon?
Well, I mentioned several delivery systems, all of which I've experienced. There can be airborne. There can be consumables like food, waterborne. There can be uh, chemical weapons that can absorb into your skin through clothing, bedding. Actually, interestingly enough, there's a an individual named Dr. Wouter Basson who was head of Project Coast in South Africa during the apartheid regime, and Basson was known to be attempting or possibly even succeeding in developing a blacks only bioweapon. That would be a gene weapon that would only attack darker skinned people. And Basson, he was brought to court and charged with over 200 200 accounts of multiple infractions, including attempted assassinations. And one of the methods which the witnesses against him reported about Basson was this clothing laced assassination attempt. It's very interesting. Basson had over 200 witnesses against him. He had no witnesses in his defense, and the judge exonerated him of all charges. He was dubbed Dr. Death by the South African media. But this is the clothing lacing is something that apparently is pretty well known in intelligence circles.
I'm not going to say which officials they are. You just mentioned them, but I'm not going to say it. But they are commonly known to accept bribes.
You mean like judges, like the judge who passed on Wouter Basson? Gee, like what went on there? 200 very credible witnesses against him. Nobody speaking in his defense, and all charges dropped. Huh? That shows one diligent and compromised judge, I would say.
Or one that does not do his homework. It's for all of the judicial community to go back to school, I think, because what we're seeing is a lot of people going before judges that are TIs, people just like you, and they're getting put into mental institutions for 30 to 60 days observation, and then they throw away the key. That's
right.
What I say in my estimation of the number of targets there are out there. A good percentage of them aren't in mental institutions. And some, I say some, have actually gone there because they were hearing the voices and could not come up with an explanation. So they deemed themselves schizophrenic.
Well, that's pretty terrible. I mean, for someone, I guess it's understandable that if someone's hearing voices and doesn't know that this can be induced, I guess somebody might think they're crazy when they're not. It's very sad.
Yes, it is. The main thing they try to do right from the beginning is to undermine your belief system. And if they can undermine your belief system, they can take you right out. but you have
Well,
your feet on
right.
solid ground all the time.
That's a very good point, Frank, because I think that all of us who have been targeted in any way know. They know about the slander campaigns. They know about the insinuations that you've lost your mind. And I think it takes a very strong person to be able to stand their ground when their sanity comes under scrutiny and attack this way. Um, my heart goes out to everybody else who's experienced this because it's a very isolating experience, and it is a very difficult situation to deal with because as people, we're social animals, and we look to our cohort. We look to other people in a sense for cues. What's going on here? What do you think's going on here? And if suddenly everybody turns and points and says you're crazy, then it might shake most people's belief in themselves. And I think it's very, very important for people to understand what's happening to them. If they can figure out why it's happening to them, that is important too, and it's very, very critical for people to stand their ground.
Okay, another thing they do is they will attack the 5-year-old that is all of us. That's why they love to take presents with you in the bathroom, and they go all over all of your 5-year-old memories, and it's just downright disgusting.
Well, maybe I haven't experienced that. Not having electronic harassment or attacks, I may not have experienced that. So I'm not sure I could comment on that, but I'll say that this past year, 2018 was a very difficult year for me. I had 3 cats murdered. So my pet, these were my family. These were my babies, and I had 3 murdered, and it rocked me. It shook me up. It didn't make me question myself. But it just kind of blew me away, and I think for quite a while I couldn't muster what I needed to get any work done. I mean, I remember I'd just sit in the garden and I'd look at the trees and I'd weep, and that was a very difficult thing for me to deal with the loss of my kitty.
Yeah, that's another thing they work on because of the value of to its owner, especially when someone is single and they have been single for a long time and they've had their pet for a long time. The attachment is unbelievable.
Yes. There's a reason that there's this stereotype of the crazy cat lady, right? The unmarried woman. Well, in my case, I'm divorced, right? But whatever. The single woman who simply gushes all her affection and maternal energy on her kitty cats, right? And you come to look at them almost as your children. And the last one died in my arms, and it was heart-wrenching for me. She was I'd gotten her. Her name was Sammy, and I'd gotten her after the 2 that I'd had for years were murdered. I had them for 5 and 6 years, and they were murdered. And I'd gotten Sammy finally several months later because I thought, that I could maybe have a replacement kitty, and she lasted about 2.5 weeks. And
Well,
I do know who murdered Sammy, but there's nothing I can do about it.
we have Linda Costanzo who lost a pet, um, and we have so many others. We have Lorraine from New Jersey. She's actually heading up sanctuary, not for the pet, but to go to post to on Facebook, and it's just terrible. They've killed her pets, and we have a woman in Western Massachusetts also, and they're stepping all over my head, so I can't remember names. Oh God, this is killing me. She's actually the first TI I spoke with too. Kate out in Western Massachusetts.
Oh, I'm so sorry that others have gone through this. So it's a terrible thing to go through. You know, what can you do? We're dealing with monsters.
Well, you can rest in one area because we have driven them crazy. They are crazy to the point where they don't know what to do because in terms of the electronic end of it, of the V2K, they are speaking. They call it mirror talking, and I have coined it because they actually ask a question and answer it themselves. And there are other times where the two perps will go back and forth asking and answering questions. And the premise behind this is to try and get you to believe that it is you answering the questions. So the subliminals that are being dropped in are that is you answering the question or answer the question. They try to use direct orders, which apparently don't work very well with my brain. But if they say they're dealing with your brain, don't believe them because they have to get through your mind first. And your mind can detect these drop-ins, as I call them. I can see them. They're like little gray brick walls coming, and you just knock them down. But there's a lot of tricks they have.
I can't imagine. You know, I have no experience of my mind or my brain being invaded. I simply do not experience that. I would think that would be like it's like your last bastion. You know, when they come in your house every time you go out. You know, when they contact all your friends, and I mean that's one level of invasion. But I'm the idea of them getting into your mind is just simply horrific.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely like the same as you having a portion of your life stolen day by day. So it's over 7 years. It's like 7 years, 4 months for me now. And every day that goes by, it's just another day with no privacy, another day that you have to share with two other people. And they don't really even want to be there anymore. They're addicted. They can't put it down. I keep telling people that. And if you look at human nature, if I'll give you an example, a child that comes home and plays with a computer every day and plays games on that computer, will try and put this game down, trying to control a human being. And you're trying to get inside this human being's head. So it's they'll risk anything to play this game. But you know something, Janet. This is your night. It's not my night to explain things.
No, I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Oh, no problem.
I really do. You know, my situation is pretty awful, but I don't claim any any sort of uniqueness with it being awful, because what I hear from other people, when I hear the details of what they're living through, it also sounds horrific. So I guess there's just all kinds of little goodies in their Pandora's box, which they can use to torture people. I had talked about having clothing and bedding laced with these chemicals. What they're putting on the clothing and the bedding are heart attack chemicals. And I'm not talking about palpitations here. I'm talking about searing cardiac pain. And, one has to be diligent enough to realize, where this is coming from and take off that T-shirt fast, right? Before it kills you. So now, you're talking about people hanging out in your head and that sort of invasion of privacy. My focus is now more on sort of trying to maintain some sort of perimeter to my environment. I'm now in town. I had to go into town to use a cyber cafe for this particular call. And when I come back tonight, my bedding will be laced with heart attack chemicals. I mean, this is a given. It's a given. Okay. So I now have to figure out, well, what can I do to protect myself? So I pack a suitcase, right? And I drag my little wheelie behind me that has my bedding in it and some other things, which are simply too important to leave to the possibility of contamination. But if I want fresh clothes tomorrow, I'm going to have to wash them tonight, because believe me, there's nothing wearable in that house anymore. So, if clothing is going to be clean, I'll have to wash it, dry it, put it on, before I leave the house again. So this is my reality. This is what I have to deal with, and I'm very grateful I don't have to deal with people talking to me in my head. Now my perimeter is a little wider. It's not my ears. What goes on between my ears. It's like what goes on in my direct environment. But it's all unacceptable. It's all it's unbelievable. I mean, if I had any idea back when all I was trying to do was protect my mother's life, if I had any idea that any of this stuff was possible, I would have picked her up, put her on a plane, and taken her as far away as possible from perpetrators. Which, at this point in time, we do appear to be dealing with a global agenda, and who knows where that was the move, maybe, huh?
Okay, Janet, would you like me to see if we have anyone who would like to ask you a question?
Oh, sure. Yeah. That'll be just fine. And I want to thank you, Frank. It was very, very kind of you to invite me to come on the show.
I heard you. Okay, the first question we have goes to Barbara, as she asked in the chat. Go ahead, Barbara.
Hi, my name is Barbara Gillette, go by Memoir. And
hi.
Now, from what I understand, you are a former nun, is that correct?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I asked, because I wasn't sure. You had said that from what you've read and experienced, that you think something different. Either it was coming from different weapons or different tactics or different techniques. Something in your conversation you said was different than the norm, what you've read and heard from in the targeted community. Do you recall saying this?
Yes, I do.
Could you explain what you meant?
Well, sure, on a couple of different levels. First of all, I think what's different is that I'm not dealing with electronic weapons. I'm not being hit with directed energy. I'm being hit with chemical weapons, pretty much solely chemical weapons. And I did go into a little bit with Frank on some of the different delivery systems that I've experienced for chemical weapons.
Do
But that's,
they, you said they spray your clothes and your sheets. Do they spray your sheets?
yes, they spray the sheets.
Yeah, that's how they first started with me was they took uh, military grade bug spray and sprayed my sheets with it. I came down with head to toe dermatitis. I went to the doctor for that.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
it, you're not being subjected. Are you being subjected to gang stalking?
Um, well, I guess to the degree that they are deploying people to use these chemical weapons against me. For example, I'd mentioned that I now pack up a little wheelie suitcase when I have to go into town in order to protect certain things. So they've now started to deploy what I call like purse whackers. So I have certain items which I don't want contaminated, which I would have either in my purse or in my little suitcase, and they have people coming up and slapping the side of my purse. Right.
They're
Out of nowhere.
probably marking.
They're put. No, I know exactly what they're doing. They've got chemical weapons, and they're hitting. They're attempting to contaminate the items.
Well, they're probably marking you too, like for
No, I don't believe so. I do
you
not
don't
believe
think that
so.
they're doing
No,
heat sense not heat sensor what is it where it shows up under a certain black light or something.
no, I don't
A
believe
mark.
so. I don't. There's no need to mark me. I actually have a chip, which has shown up on X-rays. I also got bug swapped by Roger Tulsis in Los Angeles, who,
Roger Tulsis is a crook
well, he found
and
the
a
chip.
liar and it's
Okay, Roger Tulsis. I'm not. I don't want to talk about his character and his integrity, which I have some concerns about. But he found the chip in the exact same place that it's now being located on the X-rays. So I'm just saying that there have been various sort of efforts made to locate the chip, and they have all confirmed it in the same location.
have you
So
tried to have it
there's
out?
it's in my lung. It's inoperable.
Okay, is this in has it manifested itself in one area, such as like let's just call it a mass of metal or
No,
net?
it's a very small. Actually, I put the photo on my Facebook page at one point, and I'd be happy to email it to anybody who'd be interested in seeing it. I've sent it to several people also. Um, it's in the right lobe of my lung. It's a very small, little bright dot in my lung, which has been confirmed by medical personnel to be a foreign object. And there is a section in my book where how to get in your lung. You know, that's pretty concerning. And I was able to kind of figure out during the period of time that I was unconscious after being assaulted by the police. I was unconscious for 3 days and in a hospital uh, in Long Beach, California. And so apparently during that 3 days of unconsciousness, it was injected into my bloodstream. And the book goes through how this foreign object actually entered my heart and almost killed me. And actually was after I lost consciousness and fell and hit my head so hard. This is within 24 hours of being released from the hospital, where I ended up after I was assaulted by the police. I just dropped. Suddenly I just lost all my blood pressure and dropped and hit my head so hard that I had to go back to another hospital to get my head sewn up. So that is apparently when the chip entered my heart. And from what I have been able to piece together and understand, it shot out of my heart, possibly because of how hard I fell, and ended up lodged in the right lobe of my lung. These are murderers, and I think that they're playing a cat and mouse game with a lot of us, and they're trying, like, will this kill him? No, that didn't quite kill him. Well, let's try this. Let's just ramp it up like this. Maybe this will kill him. This is what I think we're dealing with. And Barbara Gillette, who I'm aware of, and I have read some of her posts and messages with great interest. I just wanted to respond, that I don't believe they're trying to mark me. I think they know exactly where I am at every single minute. And what I have experienced from the purse whackers is that if I don't clean that whatever that is off really fast, then everything I have in my purse is contaminated. So, I am in a chemical weapons program, and it doesn't, it's just simply a different program. That's all. I just wanted to kind of say that.
Anon, you have a question for Janet? Godspark, you have a question for Janet?
Oh, I
Why
do.
are you targeted, Janice? Janet?
I kind of went through this, I think, a little bit at the beginning of the call about my mother being murdered, about my being approached by this individual named Jack Smith, who turned out to be a federal agent, how he basically maneuvered my mother. He basically maneuvered my mother into death. One of the documents that is archived in my book, Exile, which goes through my life since Jack Smith, is a record that appears to indicate at least part of the payoff for his extraordinary service to the U.S. government in having my mother murdered. So basically, there was hit on my family, and Mom died, and I somehow or another survived. So, and I do go into some depth in the book as to why I think this hit was put on us, and so I urge people who are interested in that part of my story to do the research, and you can get the book, or you can even find things I've written online. I am a working journalist. I write mostly now for activist posts. I don't write about myself for activist posts generally, but my concerns as to why a particular family would be plucked out of the air for this level of attention does go into some depth in my understanding of what sort of eugenics programs, what sort of target populations for eugenics is sort of running the show in America now, and this ties directly into the hit on my mother, I believe. So I hope I answered the question.
Get any V2K?
I have no electronic, nothing. No directed energy, no V2K, no electronic anything. It is
Do you ever get the urge to do something and you have to do it?
Only pee. No, sorry. I
like go to a certain area that you're not familiar with, or go to a certain store, or leave your house at a certain time, and the urge is you can't quite figure out why you're having this strong urge.
No, I don't. I do not know.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? I'm just wondering, when they spray your sheets and your clothing, is that done remotely, or are they coming in your house and spraying
Oh,
your
they're
sheets?
coming in my house. They're coming in my
Okay.
house when I go out. And, I've been able, this might help some people. If you haven't figured, you probably figured this out on your own, right? But if, in case you haven't, there are various ways you can tell if somebody's actually come into your house. They try to be like, sort of stealthy about it. But for example, if you wash your floor right before you go out, and you come back and there's footprints all over your floor, then you know they've been in. Okay, and there's other ways that you can sort of arrange things. For a while, when I left, I was like propping up a broom on the inside of the door, and then I closed the door. And the first time I did that, I came home and the broom was on the other side of the house. Okay, so they moved it. They picked it up. They came in, they picked it up and moved it. So the kinds of things they're doing in my situation, I know that not, other people have entirely different programs and experiences, but the kinds of things they're doing, they need access. The chemical weapons are not done through electromagnetics. They need access. So if they're going to come in and spray your sheets, they need to be close to your sheets. Okay. So people who are concerned that people are coming inside, there are various little tricks you can use to see if somebody's been in when you've gone out.
Okay, Anon, you have a question.
I have a question. This is Andrea.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I wanted to know if you've ever tried having somebody live with you, number one. Number two,
Somebody what?
live with you to watch when you're gone.
It's not going to happen anymore. It's not at this point. Not at the level things are at now. No.
Uh-huh. And then number two, you had a show with Ella Free about 3 weeks ago, and I'm wondering if that recording is anywhere for people to listen to. And then number three, I'd like to know if you can be contacted somehow.
Yes. I can give out an email address. I'll be happy to do that now.
Okay, that would be great. I'd love to contact you and talk with you a little further, because it's great to have somebody around that understands this on a sort of a really deeper level and an intellectual level, and I'd really like to talk to you.
Sure. I'll give you my Proton Mail account.
Okay.
It's been maxing out a lot. So if you don't hear back from me, check and make sure it got through. Okay, because I have to keep emptying it. So it's J.C. Phalen, my last name, at protonmail.com, and Phalen is P as in Peter, H as in Helen, E-L-A-N as in Nancy. So J.C. Phalen at protonmail.com.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. Look forward to hearing from you.
Mm.
When you did the Ella interview, I'm sorry if I'm confused, I appreciate your story, but were you the lady that said that there were valves at the water source to houses, and they had like secret valves?
Yeah, that was the first show I did with Ella. We did a show about 3 weeks ago, and I don't believe it's been posted yet. But yes, actually, that research was was part of my journalistic efforts having to do with biological weapons delivery systems. That was me, yes.
Okay, yeah. I thought I recognized your voice, and I think my interview on Ella is going to go up soon. But yeah, I just have B2K and everything, and I know that we're all kind of like in a different research category, but so I missed the part which country you live in, or did
I
you give me that out?
I'm only saying I'm in Latin America.
Okay. And have you ever heard of a missionary named Padre Guadalupe in Honduras? His American name was Jim Carney.
No, who is he?
Uh, you, you know, all-American guy, Chicago, stood up to racism, fought in World War II, and became he was a good Jesuit, not an evil Jesuit, but he was a missionary, and you know, when he went down there, the place, the convent or whatever, where the missionaries would stay was like a resort. I mean, it was like a luxury resort housing, and he was the kind of guy that would go join the people. The word campesino means like person of the field, and so he would join in with those people to, you know, show them God's love, right? And so after like 20 years of that, he just went missing, basically. And they still celebrate, they still remember him, I think, every year down there in Honduras. His autobiography is amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll look it up.
Okay.
Honduras is a very dangerous country. People go missing there all the time.
Very dangerous.
Sorry to hear that happened.
Yeah, are there any other people interested in asking Janet a question? Just unmute, hit *6, and ask your question.
Okay.
This is Neil.
Hi. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just wanted to let you know I sent you that form your Lighthouse put out.
I actually saw it on my email. Thank you. I will take a look at it, Neil.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy that anybody can fill one out against you.
I'm not surprised somehow.
Yeah, he's saying that probably 90% of the people on the list are obviously not terrorists.
Right. Well, you know, I want to say something about terrorism, particularly as it relates to journalism, okay? Because terrorists instill fear in people, right? They're dangerous. They may destroy you, and they instill fear. And I think to some degree, activists and journalists can be seen by people who have a whole lot to hide as being potentially terrorizing, because they can expose you. And we just have a press release that came out that I really hope is going to make it into the press that exposes a U.S. attorney as somebody who's taking bribes. You know, if you're the U.S. attorney, that could terrorize you, right? So I'm just sort of it's kind of a riff on you know on the place and the position of truth telling in a top heavy surveillance society. You know, they don't want certain facts to come out. The gentleman who was just bringing the issue up about the valves. I want to make a point here that, you know, what I've uncovered with this double-line water system that was discussed on Ella's show. I also did Alex Jones's show and dozens and dozens of others on the same subject. You know, what I've uncovered here is essentially a weapons system that can be pointed at any U.S. citizen at any time. So you step out of line and you can get hit with this and you'll never know what hit you. So, you know, I believe strongly that journalism is a noble profession and that people, citizen journalists, professional journalists, you know, whatever whatever flavor you are, that we can do an awful lot in exposing the kinds of atrocities that are not only happening but may happen in the future. So, you know, is this an act of terrorism? Well, it is an act of intellectual terrorism because it terrorizes people who are planning on doing these terrible things. So, anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Barbara had another question.
Sure.
Question?
Yeah.
I
hope you're not
May I
upset.
ask what type of poisons you think you're being poisoned with and chemicals?
Well, most of these appear to be fairly military grade. Without a proper laboratory analysis, like I tried to get with the Chemical Weapons Convention, like I tried to get with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, without the proper laboratory analysis, I'm only left with symptoms, you know. So I
Smells
really
that are odorous?
Sorry?
Do you have any that have odors that are odoriferous?
You know, that's a good question, and mostly I would say no. However, like for example, I am being hit with some aerosol or gases, and I can taste them. I can't smell them, but I can taste them. So, who knows?
Do they make your mouth dry and your tongue dry and it's hard to swallow?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, see, these are chemicals. I have all kinds that smell very much like insecticides, pesticides. Sometimes it's benzene. It's been chloroform. It's been many, many things. A sweet cherry smelling one. Now I've got something that smells like cooked vegetables with a lot of asparagus in it because that covers the odor of the real poison as far as I can determine. You know, I'm going what coming up with. So if you smell really strange things, it's covering up something that's worse.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that.
And then there's another one that doesn't have an odor, and I think it's a cousin to sarin because I get the effects of very close to sarin. So I've been in this for about 2 years of the chemical poisoning around the clock. So I have a very wide repertoire in my back pocket. But anyway, I wish you the best, and I hope everything works out for your future.
Is that
Barbara? Thank you.
sarin gas you mentioned? That's dead.
Pardon?
That's sarin gas?
I can't hear exactly.
Sarin gas?
Sarin, yeah.
Now,
Very deadly.
if that touches your skin, you're dead. So,
But it's such a small, frankly, such a small trickle. But most of them are aerosol and vapors, and sometimes they're even wet.
it takes a drop.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
The thing I think is a cousin to sarin, it really does a number on you as far as the side effects.
Yeah, one breath, and you're dead. And if you get a drop or less on your skin, you are also extinguished.
You're right.
And then there's
You're right about that.
Powder that was a very, very fine powder, finer than you can believe. The minute that was dumped on through the ceiling above my head, everything in my body dried up instantly. I couldn't swallow. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. I had a little bit of air left in my lungs to run out into the hall and run up to another apartment. But I don't know how that didn't kill me, and that was May 10. That really was the closest I came to death.
Karen, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thanks for your interview tonight. I just wanted, anyways, I said a prayer for you. I've had a lot of chemical warfare, and I got poisoned very badly with arsenic on a bag of popcorn at the Days Inn in the vending machine in the lobby last April, and I ended up with a very bad heart attack because of what that arsenic did to me. I almost died that night. I had abdominal contractions like every 4 or 5 minutes until I did what somebody told me to do, and that was to drink milk, which neutralized the arsenic. But my entire muscular system was contracting every few minutes, and I would have died if I hadn't have done that milk, or I would have gone in the emergency room. So anyways, a week later, I had a very bad heart attack for the first time in my life, and I haven't been able to jog or run or do any cardiovascular exercise since then. And I just felt inspired to share that with you. And I'm sorry for your pain. And I also want to remind you, I'm a spiritual healer, and with what happened with my heart, Jesus has been holding my heart together with what I've been, all the crap I've been going through with my targeting. And I prayed that he removed the microchip from you, and he can do that stuff. He's done some real miraculous stuff for me. So there are ways to remove the technology, because he does want to be asked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Janet?
I was in New Hampshire. Oh, go ahead, Linda.
Okay. I want to say thank you for talking about taking your suitcase with you on a little wheelie thing. I do the same thing. And the people that make fun of me are perps, because they want me to leave all that information at home. And I'm so sorry, Moss, about your cats. Your sadness was real clear. And I've lost some dogs and some cats, and one of mine died in my arms screaming. He was hemorrhaging to death. And it's just unbelievable they will do that. And I'm so sorry for your loss. I know it's hard, but we can get through it. Are you going to get any more animals, do you think?
Well, this is an issue. I moved recently, and I was feeding a whole bunch of cats, outside cats, like, cats, homeless cats, right? I was feeding them where I was living before. It was kind of in the forest, and I had a big wall around the property, and there are a lot of feral dogs around, and the dogs couldn't get into the cat, so it ended up sort of being a cat refuge, right? And so when I moved, there was one cat that I decided I really had to take with me. I've been feeding her for about 10 years. I'm sorry, 6 years. I'm looking at something online that said 10, and I said 10. I've been feeding her for 6 years, and when I first moved there, she was barely more than a kitten, and she belonged to the owner of the house, and she'd been attacked by a German Shepherd, which had almost killed her, and she ended up neurologically damaged. And she's, nobody thought she was going to survive. Well, she survived, and she's ditzy as all get out, right? So there I am. I'm going to be moving. I'm trying to find homes for cats, and lo and behold, nobody wants them. And sure as all get out, nobody wants that ditzy cat. So I took her with me. I did take her with me, and I've been in a new place about 3 months, and I'm afraid to let her outside. Thought that keeps them away from her, So I am trying the best I can to take care of her. She's a very loving, sweet animal who basically, can't think her way out of a paper bag, and she needs someone, and nobody would take her, so I took her.
Hi, Janet. Can you face your microphone slightly away from your wind, because we're picking up puffs?
I'm breathing into it. Okay, is this better?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you.
This is Ryan in Massachusetts. I have a question for Janet.
Go right ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Janet, as a journalist, I was just wondering how you feel about using alternative media outlets like you said, Alex Jones or Coast to Coast. I know Derek, another call moderator, has been on Coast to Coast, and Roger, that actually scanned you for your chips, has been on Coast to Coast multiple times. I'm just wondering how you feel about the alternative news outlets like that and the credibility, and they do a lot of other paranormal stuff, and how you feel that versus probably never getting into mainstream media, like how you feel about that as a journalist.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I really like that question. It's a very thought-provoking question. The fact is that mainstream media is very selective in their reporting. So I'm not saying that they're reporting lies, but that they pick their facts in order to present a particular perspective which is not complete. Okay? And I don't respect that because it's lying by omission. And I have found that a lot of the independent / alternative media is infested with with the same kinds of trolls that run mainstream media. Okay, and there are certain hot button issues that, and depending on how the reporter kind of falls, fall on which side of the line they fall on the issue, you can usually pretty much tell if you've got somebody who's been compromised or not. And that being said, there are some really good and ethical websites out there whose editors are trying to do the best they can. They may not always get it right, or maybe I may not think they always get it right, but they're doing the best they can. So I personally think that if we have any chance at all to reinstate some level of freedom and justice for all, then we have to have a voice. We have to have a means to get out information. So, I had chosen to be a journalist long before I was targeted or I knew anything about targeting, and I'm attempting to keep treading the path. I did mention that I write for Activist Post. I have a lot of respect for their editor and for what he's trying to do. Like I may have indicated, I don't always agree with him, but I know he's doing the best he can. So that's the best answer I can give. Some of the alternative media is as dirty as the mainstream, and we just need to, use our best discernment to try to figure out.
Any outlet is a good outlet, right, for any sort of publicity on this, I guess, right?
I'm sorry, what's that?
So any publicity is good publicity for this, like even if it is on coast to coast or something that people might not find credible news outlet, so.
Well, I think some media can be very damaging. I think that information warfare is really the name of the game right now, and I think that the truth can set us free. So the problem is, how do you figure out what's the truth? Each and every one of us has to do the very best we can to discern what's really going on and why it's going on. And I'm trying the best I can, and I know there are other writers out there and editors who are trying the best they can. And I don't think that just any coverage is coverage. I mean, somebody who gets on the air and lies is not particularly a help to anybody.
Totally. Thank you very much, Janet. I appreciate everything you're doing. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Do you ever watch The Real News or Democracy Now? And I think what you're saying is true.
I'm sorry, you're asking about Democracy Now? Hello?
I think someone at PAX International mentioned this, but in 2009, the Honduran president was couped out, and he had to run for his life into the Brazilian embassy, and he was getting hit by microwave weapons. And there's an actual on the phone interview, which is there's a manuscript of it and an audio recording, and it's Amy Goodman with the war on what is it, the war on news report. Sorry, I can't think of the name. Amy Goodman with the war on Democracy Now. Anyway, so the president twice he says I'm being hit with microwave weapons, and the War on Peace report. Everyone thinks Amy Goodman is so honest, but she just plows through and completely says nothing about him being attacked with microwave weapons. So and then the other one is the Real News has all kinds of things that would be considered, and like you're saying, even the alternative media still has the same rotten character as mainstream media. Like they deal nothing with targeting whatsoever.
I don't know the real news. Okay, I'm not. I don't. I have no comment on them. Amy Goodman is has done a good job on some of the stories that she supported, but Amy Goodman won't go the distance. She won't go the distance, and for whatever reasons, she'll go so far, and that's her precipice. That's her drop-off point, and I think that personally, having seen what happens to some reporters who do go the distance, like losing their jobs, being blacklisted. I understand that people want to work; they want to be able to feed themselves and their family. But I think that the mandates of the situation we find ourselves in, which is, a pending global meltdown, I think it is simply incumbent upon journalists to get over themselves. We didn't go into journalism for self-enrichment. We didn't go into it for the, whatever sort of minimal thrill of seeing, your byline. We went into it because it is an absolutely necessary part of democracy that, that can be risky. And so if it gets risky and you can't stand the heat, you should get out of the kitchen. That's the way I look at it. And I think
who will
Amy
report on targeting? Like, who's going to risk their life in America to report on targeting?
I risked my life, and I'm paying, I'm paying for my integrity every day. And there are others out there like me. I don't want to. I'm not here like trying to blow my own horn, but I want to say something. Amy Goodman has been informed, not only by me, of the implications of Section 817 of the USA Patriot Act. In 817 of the USA Patriot Act, the United States of America gives itself immunity for violating its own biological weapons law. Okay? Now, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And once you fall down that rabbit hole, it keeps going. And you find more and more activity and legal activity around protecting the United States offensive biological weapons program. But according to Amy Goodman, she won't say a word about Section 817. She won't go there. And the fact is, people are going to die. If what is authorized in 817 and elsewhere gets pushed through, people are going to die en masse. Now, is Amy Goodman worth all that death? She's done a good job on some stories, but is she worth all that death? That's my question.
Well, if she's not going to go the distance, it's not worth it. She's got to either test the water and jump in or just walk away from the pool, so to speak.
I agree with you. I really agree with you. I'm in a situation now. It's like 4 minutes before closing here at the Cyber Cafe, and they're pulsing little messages on my screen, like get the heck offline, Janet. So I'm going to have to go in a second. And
okay, that's good. That's not good.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on, Frank. I really enjoyed this.
Well, I'm sure that you've given us a lot of information here that we can go over and ask ourselves questions here. And I should have this converted and on YouTube before tomorrow morning.
That would be wonderful.
And I'll send you the link.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you again so much for the invitation. So I'm going to say goodnight to everybody now, and God bless.
Welcome back anytime, Janet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye now.
Frank, I have a question for you.
Go right ahead.
Why is she in Latin America?
She's in Latin America because she is in exile.
Right. I feel that she doesn't have a right to criticize Amy Goodman because she's here and she's fighting the battle here. Now, you think about Khashoggi and you think about Hastings, how they were killed. And from what I've read this past week, there have been several other journalists killed worldwide. So, I think Amy's trying to do the best that she can with what she's got here, but she's not in exile. She hasn't left the country,
Well, she's a shill.
She's not a shill. I like Amy. She's putting forth the fight that she possibly can and still survive, because they have no qualms about turning around and killing her ass or any other journalist in the country. Believe me. Hastings was a warning, and so wasn't Khashoggi.
Hey, Frank, with regards to Janet, did she, and I'm sorry if she said something and I didn't catch it. Did she sue, has she sued any of the people, her perps, that have attacked her?
She said that she knows who they are, but she didn't say she didn't say at length, what she was going to do about it. I think she is still today collecting herself from this. She's been basically ushered out of the country in so many words.
Yeah, well, it can get strong enough to do that.
Yeah, I don't care what happens. I'm staying right here in the U.S. I don't care what it means, but this is where I'm staying.
I have a question. It's Ann from St. Louis.
Hi, Ann.
Hi. Wonderful. I found her book on Kindle. I can't wait to read it. There's a lot of other countries that this is going on, so I'm wondering, without sounding stupid, how come Latin America, she's able to, I'm so glad that she found somewhere where she can get some peace, because this is just terrible what we're all going through.
It's like the countries that America doesn't have a stronghold in.
Oh, I see.
As Ecuador. In other words, they're kind of against America. So America doesn't have the foothold of the surveillance and all the other tricks they use.
You'll have to forgive me.
I have to admire Janet for having the guts to leave the country. I'm sure a lot of us would like to. It takes so much courage and financial means, and just you're going into some place where you don't know anybody. It's like at the prom if you go alone and you don't even know the people in this huge class. In other words, it's like starting life all over again. It's very, very difficult. And I admire her greatly.
Okay, caller 62. Caller 62. Audio is jamming the whole system. Thank you.
I'm not caller 62, am I?
No, I would have told you.
Oh, okay.
You are.
That's the thing. If you've got money, you've got more choices.
Yeah, but it takes, the money comes in America, moving, packing, and getting your stuff down there. And of course, most people take very little, because you can live down there very cheaply and you can get furnished places. I was thinking of retiring in Mexico. I love the people. I love the food. But, I have health care issues, and
I do too.
It would be very difficult. I think if you're younger, it's a plan. You should visit the country you go to first, however.
She is
no kidding.
think you just read the brochure.
She has since moved in terms of Mexico.
I thought she said Ecuador, but
Okay.
Ecuador. But who knows where Mexico stands with the United States now? But they did have, I believe, one TI went down there and she was targeted the whole way. So Mexico, but this is, of course, before I knew I was targeted. I was thinking it'd be a wonderful place to retire. There's huge American colonies in Mexico, expat colonies that are fun, and it's on YouTube if you want to visit some. You might say expat colony in Ecuador or Paraguay or something. Paraguay is, or Uruguay. One of those is where Bush bought millions of acres and a river and all this other stuff, because that's where they're going to retire to.
As I've heard of some people going different places and their targeting got so much worse where they actually did end up being killed.
Oh my goodness. Where was that?
I'll be right back.
Oh, you would ask me that. I just came across some stuff on YouTube and just reading on Facebook because I have to use text-to-speech stuff to be able to hear what's going on because of my blindness. So I'm going to be stuck here, unless I hit the big time or something.
Well, you and Luda should get together and talk about the programs that will accommodate your.
That's the problem. I had enough hard time when I came here to St. Louis from Indiana. It was like I was kind of like a foreigner in a way. So to go, I don't even have a passport. So to go somewhere else that doesn't have Social Security or anything like that for me.
Well, you can have your check sent to where you are. That's not an issue. Assuming they get there.
I knew some people that were doing the long distance relationship thing where they were both blind, and she was in Canada, and if she was going to overstay her visa here in the United States, she was dating a man from Texas that I know. She'd have to live there in Texas for 5 years before she got anything from the U.S., and she had medical problems, and that was just never going to happen.
Yeah, it's very tough to have those kinds of relationships anywhere in the world. Even if you live in Nevada and somebody's in California, depending on your benefits, it's very hard.
I heard something at the. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
No, go on.
Well, the other day somebody was telling me that they're going to Nevada because they have the type of Section 8 housing that transfers. I didn't have the kind that transfers. I think I was mostly on HUD. That's where I get mixed up at is what it's, this difference between Section 8 and HUD.
Yeah.
I know what she's talking about with the chemical stuff because the one building I lived in, I was exposed to so much. Like when you all had the call a couple of weeks ago about V2K, man, just a lot of that stuff just started to really resonate with what's been going on with me. With the microwave torture? My hair was falling out so much.
Do you have chemicals and microwave?
Yes, I was exposed to all kinds of. That's why when I write my posts, I say I've been exposed to a lot of chemical and biological warfare. A lot of people think biological warfare. What's going on with you? Is somebody putting anthrax in your mail? Because all that crap that went down several years ago, where you had to put pair of gloves on to open your mail.
Yeah, was hoaxes. That was the government.
That was just
That was
awful.
the government playing, that was the government playing let's scare Americans. That was also an inside job, if you will.
That was done by the Republicans to kill what's his name? Tom Daschle and Patrick Leahy, who were the two Democrats. One led the House and one led the Senate. And they were the ones that the anthrax was sent to because Bush wanted to kill them off so he could basically put through anything he wanted to put through. They were blocking him. That's why they sent the anthrax to him.
It's also the military grade. And each president has been guilty of very horrendous things since JFK. Every one of them.
You know, since I've been coming to these groups, I mean, the puzzle that's been going on with me since in the early 2000s is starting to fall together, like, especially when she was talking about the chemicals and stuff like that, because the apartment buildings I've lived in, I mean, I had never been so sick in all my life until I moved into those. I'm here to tell you.
You're talking about government bill HUD?
Right, it went by my income. The first one was the worst because I've been on my own since 1992, and I could have been experiencing some stuff in that building. Now, that was a fair market, so I didn't get any subsidies or anything. I didn't go into subsidized housing until 1997, and it's like my health totally went to hell, you know, in there. I lived there for about 12 years. Well, the whole I think it was just a whole combination of things. They told me I had fibromyalgia, which I'm really starting to wonder if that's even was the case. Because I'm looking forward to, you know, when I can talk to Kathy Meadows about that. She's so knowledgeable about stuff, or just somebody that can kind of help me piece this together to figure out what is going on. Because I know something's going on. I don't ever tell anybody, but you just know, you know.
The fibromyalgia is actually genetically altered mycoplasma.
It's a man-made disease.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. What is that, Neil Heights, Melinda? What is that Brookhaven lab created AIDS and all the other stuff?
I heard about that too, where AIDS is a man-made thing.
Yeah.
Because I listened to this thing about depopulation, the history of depopulation, and somebody quoted somebody else saying that AIDS took too long that they started. So it's like, bang, there you go. You know, right there, black and white, that it was government influenced. And they said that's why they should have introduced Ebola, because that thing works fast.
Well, there is. I do want to say this. There is an Ebola outbreak that is growing very fast, so it may still be
I believe
a possible thing. Now, what I have read, and I've read several things on this, and I really pray it's not true, it's why I've not mentioned it, that if the globalists, I'm not going to say Democrats, I'll say globalists, because it's globalists and nationalists, no more Republicrats. Okay, we can forget the parties. If the globalists get backed into a corner and they get in trouble and too many indictments take too many of their people, several people have said there are kill switches in every major city, which could mean they can set off an epidemic, a pandemic, they can cause a EMP, loss of electricity for a whole city. There's several kill switches. And I do believe that's true, because I do believe that's how these entities think. I don't want to call them people. That's how they think. They don't care about killing 1 million or 2 million or 100 million people. They really don't care about that, as long as they're safe and feeling good, you know?
No kidding. I even wonder. Oh, go on. I'm sorry.
That movie, Vice is really good, you guys.
Which one? Which?
It's called Vice.
Oh, Vice. I saw it.
Yeah. It's all about Dick Cheney's life and how one person can have such an effect on I guess we know that.
And they didn't even begin to touch his nastiness. They didn't even get to the real root of that piece of scum. Pardon my French.
Wow. And it's just amazing that that's what we're trying to uncover right now. Some of the deepness and the darkness is still around, as we know.
Oh, it's all around. They haven't touched it yet.
I'm afraid. I'm getting kicked out. I will tell you now. I have to move, and I don't have the energy, and I'm like kind of sick sometimes. I never know when it's going to come and go. And when it comes, it's bad. But when it's not, it's fine. Um, Sometimes I just go along with it and try to ignore it. But anyway, this apartment that they want me to that I'm looking at and was talking to Frank about it, it's a basement apartment. And he said, well, just put some radon and detectors in there for a month and see how it goes. And that one might be okay. But I'm afraid that my stuff is going to get damp, and I just don't know if that's a good thing to do.
Well,
Either that or
how
go
many
to a
times? How many times have you seen the apartment?
just one.
Go in again. You
Go
will
in again.
feel dampness if there's mold or whatever. You will feel it. So go in as many times as you can. Say, I have to measure for my couch. Next week, I have to measure for the drapes, blah, blah, blah. Just get in there as much as you can. And if you keep feeling dampness, just say, I can't take this because my allergies are acting up. I don't know what's in here. Whatever.
Yeah, I lived in a house. I told Angela that registered 12 packages of cigarettes a day. That's what the comparison was. And what you do, these cards, they're radiation cards. You put them on the wall 5 feet from the floor, and you leave them sit there for I forget how many days, and then you off to the company, and there's no charge for the analysis, and they send you back the results. And my results were the equivalent of smoking 12 packs of cigarettes a day. So we had to put in ventilation, low-level ventilation from the floor to the windows with feather fans. Quite costly. But move away from there.
What about a
Scary.
dehumidifier?
What was in there? What was in there?
What about a
Yeah.
dehumidifier?
Yeah, what about it?
A
What about it?
dehumidifier will stop that. They won't run normally in the wintertime below 60 degrees. They ice up.
A dehumidifier? I didn't have any problem with mine.
It also does not detect mold, and that's really one of the things that can be very, very health-wise, very, very debilitating.
Well, most people that have houses put them in the basement, and the basement will average 60 degrees on its own, and they will ice up because that's where people try and dry out their cellars and keep them dry.
I didn't have any problem. It ran winter and summer.
I don't know. I guess if I had those cards and then if I started feeling really sick, I could move again. Moving is so hard.
Oh, who you telling? It is terrible. And you don't know if what you're
like
moving
a divorce.
can be
the worst.
Can be coming from your other place, and you're bringing it into your new place where you can make a new start for yourself.
Yeah, like you guys were talking when I was on the calls and when we were talking about moving, just moving to a different place where you don't know anybody. That's not easy, but I mean it can be done. It's just what do you take? What do you take? You just leave a lot behind. That's all.
That's what I did. I moved here by plane.
Oh.
Didn't miss anybody. There's no love lost between me and where I moved from. I never looked back.
Sheep and lambs are gonna be in the swine barn.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Good old Mark.
What?
Hey Neil, are you still on? I wanted to ask you about the frequency generator you were talking about the other night.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. What about it?
Oh, thank you. Do you know how I would get one of those or how much they cost?
Yeah, they're 160 now, and you can get them through me. We hand build each one.
Wow.
Okay. I do email you already. I'm mh4it at ymail.
Oh, did you send it to Electric Rose 22 at Yahoo?
Yeah, I kind of just included you when I send out PDFs. So, but I'll message you about the generator.
Yeah, I did send a response after a call, I guess it was. Where there was 2 people that asked, and I sent all the specs and everything. Did you get that?
No, I never requested any information. Josh wants me to buy the Hacker F, the Hacker RF SDR for the same price.
Right, yeah, you can get that through China for half of what I paid for mine. It was $300.
I'm gonna try to get that going. You guys are doing like a really interesting project to scan the whole spectrum with a GPS coordinate, so there's a log going of what seems like a reasonable thing.
I have a suggestion. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Neil.
Oh, no, go ahead, Frank. It's all right.
I was just going to say there's a site called, I believe it's In the Sky, and it's in -the-sky. And it's got the coordinates and a visual radar screen of all the satellites in your area. So you are in the center of it, and it shows you where all your satellites are in height, like some of them 27,000 miles, if you can believe that.
I wonder how many St. Louis has.
Yeah, all you have to do is go to this site. It immediately plots where you are because of the GPS satellites, and it'll give you that screen.
Well, it sounds so visual, and I can't see anything anymore.
Oh, that's a bummer. That's right.
This is a whole thing about being blind and being a TI. I mean, there's so much that's not accessible. I can't pull out one of these meters that you can download on your iPhone because you don't know if it's voiceover compatible, and it usually isn't if it's some kind of visual thing.
Potential.
God, I need a cup of coffee.
Is it in/the/sky?
Yes.
There's a really good website.
.org.
Talkify.net will read any website to you. Like starting from the top left corner, it should read out the search bar, and then it'll go on to all the content.
Occupy.net?
Talkify.net. And there's also like naturalreaders.com. They have pretty good human sounding text-to-speech now, the TCS.
Humanreaders.com, you say?
Naturalreaders.com, and the other one is
Natural Readers. Okay. Can I give you an email address and you can send me some links? Because I know I'm going to forget them all.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. What's your name?
Michael.
Okay.
I'm driving, so...
Oh, you're driving. Okay, I can wait a minute.
I hope it's a simple email address.
It is. It's in all small letters. Gateway. Any of you are welcome to say hello because I really could use the support. I just found out recently that
how do you read your email if you're blind?
What's that?
I'm wondering how you read your email.
Oh, well, that's easy because the iPhone has voiceover on it, and it reads it fine. But if it's something that's like really visual, it's not going to read that. It doesn't even read CAPTCHA images.
Well, that's interesting.
Do you guys know how to email a Facebook? I have Facebook, and there's a video on Facebook that is so good. Karen Stewart's third video. I love it. It's by some guy named Mike Grubbs, Chev Grubbs, or something like that. It's oh my gosh, Derek and his whole group, and they're in court, and everybody stands up and does a testimony. Did you guys see it? And then John Hall is on it, and he's very good. and there's another guy comes on and he's showing the patents, and I'm
That's
thinking, where did
that's the bioethics, I think.
yeah.
Can we jump back? What was your email? Gateway something?
Gateway Saver, S as in Sam, A Alpha, V Victor, E Everett, R Romeo at Gmail.
Okay, gatewaysaver@gmail. I got it.
Yeah, 'cause I live in a gateway city and love to save money, so that's how I came up with Gateway Saver, and it's easy
Okay.
for somebody to remember. So any information you've got, or if you just I'm looking for different people to talk to, and just has anybody heard from Nikki? I heard the last I heard she was sent home from the hospital, but I hope she's doing okay.
You know something? We haven't heard anything.
You haven't, or you
No.
have?
No. Neil.
Oh no.
Have
Well, the
have
reason
any of you heard about Michael Large? They threw him in the funny farm, and
oh no.
on Ramola's latest YouTube.
Barbara, you need to come in more clear because we're missing what you're saying. Okay,
Romola was doing a YouTube about Michael Large. He got thrown in the funny farm, and she posted telephone numbers and address and everything. She wants everybody to call. So if you want information, go to Romola D's Reports website or go to her YouTube. It will be an interview about Michael Large, spelt the way it sounds, and you can get all the information and the links there because I have none. And call into the hospital, inquire about him, show some support. That's what she was asking for. I guess she was talking to his attorney, and his attorney requested it also. So.
Yes, because it's been working really hard to try and get him out and fax them over about 65 pages of information over the weekend.
Oh, good.
But apparently they've done some kind of a court hearing right there at the psych ward, which is cool. Yeah, that's not good.
Did you? Yeah, but you know what Romola was saying is that every time they throw a person in the psych ward like this, the hospital gets $25,000 per person.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the doctors make money off this also. And if you go into her YouTube interview about Michael, she'll give you all the it's toward the end of her tape. But I was flabbergasted.
And I will also
that he's getting all this, that the hospital's getting all this money.
Is it coming from the patient's health insurance, or is it coming from the drug companies to
I
keep
have
that
no
patient
idea.
on that?
But
they're just getting this money.
I think it's from like his insurance or from the government. I don't know who it's from.
No.
Right. Might be medical something.
Medicaid.
Anyway, go listen to the YouTube, and I'm sorry. I've been under attack the past week and have not been very well. So I apologize for not being able to link this or tell you more about it. I do apologize. Usually.
What happened to you? It seemed like everything was fine over here other than the usual crap, until today, and then they just lost it. I mean, they were just driving me nuts all day.
Me too. It's been bad for me the last couple days.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Really slow. They think they're in some play like at Carnegie Hall or something this week. I don't know. It's really weird stuff.
Same here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same
well,
here for me, James Lico.
and
Hey,
well,
James.
I have to go to court next on the 11th. I have to go to court for acting out, supposedly, what do they call it? Disturbing the peace.
oh, geez.
17 times.
Well, everybody on this call, picture it getting thrown out of court. And while I'm thinking of it, this pattern of us not feeling good about frequency responsive nanotechnology, like these carbon nanotubes, I got some information that's saying that there's, in the process of this self-assembling technology, there can be a byproduct, which is arsenic. So consider, looking up arsenic poisoning symptoms if you're feeling worse than normal, because the last 3 days have been awful for me too. And somebody said in the chat room, take activated charcoal.
I've been using Mike Case's CD, and that has helped tremendously. At least I can get out of bed.
What'd you take?
Mike Case's CD. I ran it a couple of times.
Oh.
And when my head starts feeling like it's going to fall on the floor, I'll use Mike Case's. And I used it twice, and it even put me to sleep today, which I was very grateful for.
Thank God for sleep when you finally get some, huh?
Neil, if you don't do something about that poisoning, doesn't it stay in your body for life? Arsenic?
I haven't done enough research on it to have any valid comments, but I've certainly had the symptoms more than one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure arsenic stays in your body for life.
Frank, if you look up arsenic in Wikipedia, it'll tell you the symptoms, and I've had a lot of it. It gives you diarrhea and, in a strong dose, abdominal contractions. That's how Aristotle was poisoned, and that's how he died. My bunnies were also murdered with arsenic in Colorado. I think they injected arsenic in my bunnies, and if I knew what I was doing, well, anyways, it's really terrible to talk about. But milk will neutralize arsenic, so if you guys think you have any arsenic poisoning going on, drink some milk.
I was in Manitou.
Supposedly you can do chelation.
And Neil, I love you. It's Malika.
Oh, wow.
I think I might have that arsenic.
I'm the same.
I feel
I'm Malika.
Hey, Neil?
Yeah.
Does activated charcoal round up arsenic?
I don't know. I'm just sharing what was in the chat room. Well, we'll have to do some more research.
I think
Neil,
activated charcoal works on a lot of stuff.
I just took some activated charcoal, Neil.
You feel better?
Yeah, well, I take it all the time. It really works. It's real good. Hi, Neil. Hi, Frank. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Paul.
The thing with arsenic is, if you like Italian or anything with a lot of garlic, I hear that you can hide that in something very garlicky, and nobody would ever know that you put arsenic in that. If you have any lumps by your groin, or if you have any funny bruising or anything, even the doctors don't know unless they're really on top of their game.
Paula?
Yes?
Lorraine wanted to talk to you about something. If it's possible, next Friday, could you pop in for a few minutes to talk to her?
Lorraine from New Jersey?
No, Lorraine on my call on Fridays at 6.
Oh, okay.
She wanted to talk to you about something important.
Okay, sure.
What's your call at 6 about?
Well, I just started it, and it's pretty much just anything you want. It's TalkShoe, and it's, may I put the numbers in your Frank?
Certainly. Most certainly.
I'm calling in on my house phone because the Go meeting is not accessible to voiceover users.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
Bobby, you're
Go
going to
ahead.
have to email me the numbers again because that was a while ago.
Well, I'm going to give them to you right now. It's TalkShoe and
Oh,
it's
wait. Let me get a pen.
Hey, Memoir, did you know that TalkShoe is requiring people to use Google Chrome?
Yeah.
And Google gets into our computers. That's why I switched over to free conference call. I really hated leaving TalkShoe, but
Well, I'm thinking of doing that too.
You said it's TalkShoe and what? I'm sorry.
336.
336. Okay. For some of the people I emailed on this line, some people on this line I emailed, but I'm going to be on a broadcast next Tuesday, January 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's Gateway Keepers Ministry. It'd be myself, Dr. Black, Letty, and Julia Thompson. We're all going to be on there talking about our targeting on the broadcast. You can stream it or you can call the number that's on the flyer. Frank, I think I sent it to you. Neil, I think I sent it to you.
Okay, I'll check.
And I don't know.
Frank or Frank at Targeted, Massachusetts?
Targeted.
Okay.
Targeted, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm thinking of changing to a free conference call. I like,
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, I have an account there, but I've had an account at TalkShoe for like 20 years.
Wow.
So thought maybe I should use it, huh?
I like free conference call. I'll tell you what, it's awfully enticing. There are certain things that I have that free conference call doesn't.
Like what?
I'll mail you a list.
Listen, I need Alex's phone, email. I just some things I want to talk to him about.
Yeah, he's got a funky email. I think it's like 2 letters or something.
You want to give it to me now?
He's not here, but I will get it to you.
Okay. Well, you know my email address, right?
Hello?
You know my email address?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'll expect it because I really want to talk to him about his targeting.
All right, now, which one are we talking about? The young one or the Russian one?
The Russian one.
Okay, yeah, I've got all of his information.
Who plays chess in the park.
Okay, just let me note that.
Frank, I like your new Sunday newsletter.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah,
they're nice.
It takes some time to put them together.
Oh, they're very nice.
Yeah, send you. Do I have your information, Paula, to put in there?
What, for the broadcast?
No, for the newsletter.
Oh, for the my YouTube?
Yeah.
I sent you my YouTube, but I'll send it to you again. You want me to send you both of them? I did a part 1 and a part 2.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I'll email it right now. Y'all go ahead.
I probably put it in the lineup with things that people have asked to be displayed. I think I put it in there already, but I'll have to check.
Oh, okay.
I thought I'd never say this, but with this government shutdown, I hope I lose some, or hate to say it, all of my health insurance because people have misused it too much over the years.
Too many other people have used it over the years?
Misused it over the years. You just would not even believe what's been going on since 2001 and even before then. That's why I say 10 plus years, because I don't know, until I do more research, I don't know when this whole mess really and truly got started.
Well, let me tell you a secret. I have a twin. I went to my doctor's office probably about 7 or 8 years ago or more, before the targeting, and they said, "Here." He gave me a prescription for an inhaler, or there was one waiting for me, and I said, "I was never prescribed an inhaler, and I don't need one." And then I went to get a colonoscopy not too long ago. I think it was last year. And they said, "Oh, the last one said you had polyps." I never had a colonoscopy. So it's like, hello, have I got a twin? So I said, cross that off my list and find out who it was. And I have a question to ask everyone.
Frank, can I ask if those were state-appointed doctors or were they private doctors?
Private doctors, yeah. Okay, what was I going to say? Okay, has anybody ever had an MRI and came out of the MRI and they bring you to an area to sort of recuperate or something like that, and been given a shot that feels like it's going to kill you, and you have to...
Yes.
Don't take any shots.
What is that?
No.
I don't know.
Dye. They inject.
I've had done.
Oh, this is...
Oh, it's a dye.
Yeah. They injected dye.
They can put anything in those shots.
This is
Oh,
after.
you bet.
They said this will calm you down. This is afterwards, and so there were two old nurses there.
It might be iodine.
I think they were trying to kill me. I really do.
They may have been injecting you with more microchips or something like that, nanobots, because the MRI, I would think, would kill the microchip, would destroy it, I would think, but I mean, I don't know.
It would kind of.
Well, the notes,
heavy magnetism. They put probably more microchips in you, more nanobots.
Yeah. Missed the vein and hit an artery or something like that, because I got up off the table and I said, "Look, get this out of me. I feel like I'm dying right here," and I can't remember whether they gave me something else or not, but I thought I'd had it right there.
I haven't had an MRI since before I knew I was targeted.
I don't know how I got through all 10 of mine.
Yeah, I don't know how many I had before that. Yeah.
And I wasn't.
I'm pretty sure that an MRI would destroy any electronics in your body, because it is a magnetic resonance imaging system,
Yeah.
Which is just like an EMT.
You just wonder what. I just wonder, all the time, what the hell, because I had a couple surgeries, after the early 2000s, and I had epidurals. That's why I say biological warfare, because this last epidural made me so sick, and it was over a holiday weekend, so I know they knew what they were doing, and it's like, I'm not having it anymore. I know I was running a very high fever, and I was disoriented, or else I would have just went to the hospital. I had the injection.
Why would you have to have an epidural?
What's that?
Why would you need an epidural?
Because they told me I have degenerative discs in my neck and my low back. And I had gone to yet another pain management doctor, and they love to load you up with those. And if you refuse them, well, then they'll tell you you're not compliant. And it is such a rat race with them.
Yeah, that's
so the other one. Go ahead.
That's used basically during pregnancy, but if it goes on long enough, the baby usually closes off a lot of arteries and whatnot, and that pressure is sort of like anesthesia almost in that area, a local. But my wife I think she got an epidural. I'm pretty sure. How many women here have gotten epidurals?
Not.
I just had them for pain management, and that's what they called it, an epidural. But this doctor did it different. He would have you come in. I think it's a big money thing. What else is new with them? I got injected in one side of my back. I had propofol because that probably made it worse. So they figured, well, if you're out, we can do other stuff to you too. And
Yes,
I
they
didn't
do.
get sick. Yeah, until the one that I had in September. All these doctors have like 10 different offices anymore. So if you're going to have a procedure, then you have to go clear across town to this other office where they do it. So
Hey,
the
Frank,
first,
I'm wondering if you can call your doctor and ask them what was that shot.
I did actually. I told my PCP what had happened, and she wasn't aware of a shot that was given after an MRI. She was familiar with what was given before, but somebody said it might have been a large dose of morphine or something. I thought I was going to die, but I ripped everything up and got up, and I said, "Stop this, whatever it is." So I can't remember whether they gave me another shot or not, but I thought they were trying to kill me, and to this day, I still believe it.
Could be, Frank.
Because
May I suggest that you never have a contrast MRI or CAT scan again? You tell them you cannot do contrast. You cannot have that dye in your body. Chuck Norris's wife had an MRI or a CAT scan, and it never left her body, and she got brain damage. And they're suing for $2 billion. The company that puts out the dye. I think it's again Agenda 21. I would just say I cannot do the contrast. Tell your doctor, your GP, endocrinologist, say I won't do contrast. They can still read the results without the contrast.
Yeah. And
really, I wish I knew that.
I know. I didn't know it either. But no,
That's probably where I got a whole bunch of stuff injected in me.
Frank, I think you're probably right on the money. I went to the hospital one time in an ambulance because I could not breathe. And I got a little better, and they put me in the bed, and the doctor came in, he left, and then all of a sudden they came in and put those lead things that they put in your veins so they can give you a whatever,
a little locked.
Oh,
IV.
IV, thank you. Very good, Linda. Anyway, she put that in there, and all of a sudden my breathing got worse and worse. And she shot something, she flushed it out with something. And I was so scared. I finally got up and said, I could only whisper, but I said, I can't breathe. And the only response I got was, well, honey, if you're talking, you can breathe. And nobody would do a thing until I just walked out of the hospital.
Did they offer you oxygen?
No, nothing. No, nothing. And I really think, I think the reason I couldn't breathe was a perp. I was somehow hit with something, and by the time I got to the hospital, it was god awful, and my heart was beating like crazy. And the guy said, "Put on the siren. We got to get her there." It was bad, and then it got worse at the hospital. And if I hadn't walked out, I'm not sure I'd be alive.
Low blood.
Or that happened to you?
Yeah. Blood pressure medication.
No, it was not. No, it was no. I don't know what they didn't end up giving me anything because I finally walked out. I don't know what she shot into that IV thing. I don't know what she flushed it out with, but all I know is I was having more and more trouble breathing. I had to leave. I don't think I'd be here. It was horrible. So I think they're capable of that. They're capable of that, Frank.
Oh, you're not even kidding. And it's stuff that even if they did an autopsy on you, they wouldn't be able to find it because it leaves your body so quickly.
Right.
And so they would just never.
Targeted. I had an MRI, but I didn't get any shots, and it's electronically invasive, but it's not physically invasive, so there's no reason to give you anything. Afterwards.
You guys should know that they pay people in the hospitals who are in like the operating room or something. They just keep paying them so that they'll come to that. The CIA will go to them and say to do something to this person, like tip or
Yeah. And Frank, I think you
drug them,
probably
kill them.
probably were in danger. I know I was. I think we got to be real careful.
Remember Ryuni Kilde?
Right, Linda.
Remember Ryuni Kilde? She died. She was murdered in the hospital by one of those people.
I was taken to a remote part of the hospital, way away from where I went in, and it was like there was a garage door farther down that I could see. So I began to wonder whether I was going to get shipped out.
Yeah. Whoa.
They don't talk to those people most of the time, and they call them and tell them, "We've got something for you to do," and kill this person basically.
I mean, there's parts of the hospital you wouldn't know about unless,
Hi, Frank. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi. Okay. As far as the MRIs goes, there's MRIs with contrast and non-contrast. When they give a contrast, they have to give you an injection because it lights up part of you for the MRI. And there's actually and that's done with like the TOF, the TOF MRI. And the Homeland Security, when they went out to all the industries and contracted with them in the name of fighting terrorism, a whole lot of the medical signed on to that. And so as a result, when they demonize a victim and tell them they're under surveillance for being this horrible pedophile, this horrible criminal, people jump on board with that because first of all, this is an officer acting in official capacity, and they have these fake videos, fake documents they got on you, and they're not supposed to tell you. The doctor's not supposed to tell you or inform you of this. And so that's why you get your medical exams and things get sabotaged because they believe the official. They're doing this stuff under the color of law, which is a felony. So people need to introduce themselves to their doctors, to their people who are doing these exams and say, I'm having these legal issues, a false report saying I'm a criminal, saying I'm a pedophile, but, here's my FBI. I'm not. I want to be treated like a regular client because I'm not a criminal. I've done nothing wrong. And you'll be surprised of the attitude adjustment you will see take place in these people who are helping you, supposed to be helping you.
Well, I had the same thing happen. I told my doctor right along that I was a targeted individual, and I have narcolepsy, and I'd been my doctor had been giving me amphetamine every month for 2.5 years, and then all of a sudden, he told me that he had to stop giving it to me, and he actually talked to me in this kind of like gaslighting way that didn't make any sense at all. His whole demeanor changed, and he cut off the medication, saying that I had never been to a neurologist. I mean, he got really weird, and I have to go and
I wouldn't
threaten to sue the hospital.
Don't tell them you're a targeted individual. You need to go
I already did.
Don't
but I have this court case, and the doctor weaponized his my medical file with all this crazy stuff, and that I have guns and stuff. It's just really crazy.
James, listen, write up a paper, go ask for your record with doctor's notes, because that's where all the trash is, and sit down and write yourself up a paper and put down what you feel is the truth and what this doctor lied about, and use that term. This is a fallacy. He's making it up, blah, 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 blah. And go and either to your doctor or the hospital and tell them to put this in your records. You want this
I've already.
included in your records.
Yeah, that sounds good, Barb. I've never try it.
Yeah, I did it
They
in
can.
Mass General in Boston when they put me in the hospital. I went in, I got an attorney. Well, before I got the attorney, I wrote a letter, a Freedom of Information Act, and I wrote the hospital and I said, listen, I want my record. Well, they sent me about 12 pages. So I went back to this attorney who is free in Boston. She runs a clinic, not a clinic, but an office that will help disabled people, which I'm considered, why I don't know, do legal stuff. And if anybody in Boston wants her name and phone number, I'll give it to her, but off the site here. And what happened was she sent a letter in, and I got inches of my record back. And in it was everything, doctor's notes and everything about what this asshole said and lied about everything. So I sat down and I wrote a letter because I was absolutely distraught over what he had written because it was all bullshit. And I sat down and I wrote a letter to the hospital and I told them I wanted this included in my file without doubt. And if they didn't include it, I would sue them for slander. And from what I understand, I didn't check it out, and I should, that it is in my file.
I got a problem with with my doctor that I just told you about, and I talked to this lady in the hospital, and she was like she was weaponized. Things they do is they give a survey immediately to see how the doctor's doing. Well, the survey to see how the doctor's doing is not what it is. What they want to do is see what you think the doctor's doing, see if you're okay with it, because they just want you to forget it. Yeah, listen to this noise. They're doing that because they don't want you to know this. And when I got on the phone, it's exactly this. They have this noise that they play while you're on hold, and it must be subliminal stuff. And don't listen to when if it's too loud, don't listen to it. They put something on the phone for you to listen to make you nervous or something like that. Like what you just heard. These people in the hospitals, don't trust any of them. None of them.
You're right.
It's like they got lawyers. I'm not saying anything about lawyers. A lot of them, though, are kind of crooked, and they will, they don't care what they do to you. They don't care. It's legal stuff. It doesn't matter. It's just something to subdue you, something to,
Well, you can't sit still. You can't not speak back out. You cannot let them get away with it. You've got to be on guard all the time.
That's right.
I'm very disappointed that this form of terrorism is in the hospital industry.
That's right. My doctor.
Go ahead.
My doctor was doing this gaslighting to me, like it was garbage. Just saying things that were, just saying things that didn't make any, just to gaslight me to have this office visit, which didn't, it was just nothing. And I'm forgetting what I was going to say. All right, somebody go ahead. I can't remember. Yeah, they do. The forgetting. There's nothing wrong with my memory. They do this.
Yeah, we know.
Nothing's wrong with my eyes. Nothing's wrong. Well, something's wrong with it.
A hospital is supposed to be a place where you go to, for security.
Something's wrong with my eyes.
And it's supposed to be
it's not
safe.
like that. It's not like that. Don't go to the hospital. And if you do, take a friend. Take someone who can watch your back, because they will chip you. They will do anything to you. You know, I remember what I was going to say. The doctor gaslighted me, and I believe he had somebody come in from either the fusion center or from the DA's office, and they weaponized my, like I was telling Memoir, they weaponized my medical file. Now I have to get it out, and I can sue them for what they did.
Yeah.
You know, that gaslighting, you know what that is? That's trauma-based mind control. Trauma-based mind control, just to take my medicine away. And that amphetamine, they use that as a control to control lots of people, you know, who are being mind controlled, trauma-based mind control. It's just terrible. And the doctor was in on it because he was doing it. He was doing it.
They know what they're doing, all right. Let me tell you, it happened to me.
It was like he got a lesson in trauma-based mind control. It was as though he got a lesson, or he already knew it.
Sometimes he shows signs.
I'm telling you. What I would like to know is if is there a surveillance device, since I can't see, that they use on you? That was because I went to ER and that was probably the wrong thing to do, but I had chest pains and a rash because I've been exposed to all this biological stuff lately.
Yes.
And I had to check it out. I mean, I didn't know what else to do, but it was next to my bed and it sounded like somebody snoring. I don't know what.
They've given me chest pains like a heart attack before, and I knew what it was. I just knew I had it before, and it felt like a heart attack, but it wasn't a heart attack. And I just toughed it out, and that was the right thing. They want you to go to the emergency room so they can screw with you. Do not go to the emergency room if you know what it is beforehand.
Now that I have you guys all to talk to, I definitely stay away from them morons. But at that time, I mean, geez. You just get to a state where it's like, do whatever to you, you know, I don't know.
They try to get targets to go into the emergency room a lot so that you look crazy. And then they can do anything they want to do.
Hey, they've got a lot of gang stalkers on the staff.
I agree.
They've got a lot of gang stalkers on the staff. They've got gang stalkers for texts that you're giving your urine to and that are sticking needles in you.
Kidding.
And if you're a target in the fusion center calls these gang stalkers up and says, I have a target coming in tonight. I want you to do A, B, and C. Then boom, that's it.
Yeah, they can kill you.
Yeah. Any suggestions for somebody who's been court ordered for psychiatric evaluation, what I should do?
You might want to
I don't know, man.
watch Ramola's last video.
You need to be perfectly normal beyond the sense you've ever been normal. Very polite. What the hell is going on?
I'm kidding.
They don't like what we're talking about. They're trying to quell us.
Well, it's just like what they did to the slaves. They used to beat the slaves for learning how to read. So I mean, we're slaves to them.
You need
but we're going to fight against them.
Slaves. We definitely are slaves.
So we're going to rise
We've
above
got to
them.
stop this. You guys need to check out Deborah Tavares and Victoris Libertas' new video. They're talking about things that are we need to turn this thing around because we're being murdered. All of us, not just the TIs. Everyone is being murdered. You know, the stuff in the air, the nanobots, all of this stuff, we're being murdered. And we got to turn it around. I don't know what these gang stalkers are doing, but what they're doing is working for the New World Order, and where that's going is they're going to kill 95% of the people in this country. And
if you're Medicare and Medicaid,
in the 95%.
Excuse me.
You know, they're stupid people. Stupid.
Excuse me, Jim, just for a second. Paula, for some reason, your mic is opening when everyone else is. So it's talking. It sounds like a bunch of monkeys in a barrel. So you need to find out what's up with that. But I'm going to unmute you anyway right now. See what happens.
So what do you think that machine by my bed was that sounded like somebody snoring because I can't see?
How scary for you, my God.
I know.
You know what we might want to think about is like telling each other, like having a call if anybody's going to be going to the hospital, where they're going, what they're going in for, what is their help, just to kind of so that we all know. And, we can call that hospital and make sure you're okay, that kind of thing.
Well, what if they tell you about the HIPAA,
idea.
which
idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
but I tell you, HIPAA is just such a joke, and they might try to use HIPAA to tell you, well, we can't tell you where she's at because of HIPAA.
Okay, well, we could probably work around that somehow by handing them something when we go in and saying, this is who, these are the people that I want informed. Something like that. It just seems like we could at least take a step towards protecting ourselves. I'm not saying that's the end all to be all, but just in the meantime, when we're coming up with the end all to be all, maybe we could do something like that to protect ourselves.
Hi, you guys gotta listen to Ramola's last video about Michael Large. You gotta listen to her last video.
I did.
What did you think of it?
Well, I think that poor guy is, and well, yeah, they're lying to people. They're saying he was released when he was still there and that sort of thing. I think it was pretty scary, But we got to start somewhere,
We sure do, and education's the way.
But if we start by protecting ourselves and speaking up, these are the people that are going to be checking on me to see how I am.
I think it's imperative that we start a charitable organization, relief for victims of organized crime and gang violence, something like that. We really got to do that, guys. We've got to get some funds from somewhere to fight this.
And there's safety in numbers.
Yeah, but try to get any more than four TIs together at one time. We are not a group that gets together easily. And I mean more than four and more than that. We don't like.
Well, here's the other thing that they did. It wasn't an IV, and it wasn't measuring my blood pressure. It was some kind of. I didn't ask them what it was, but I wonder if it was some kind of surveillance thing because they took a bunch of medical tape and taped it to the end of my middle finger, and next to my bed, I am not making this up. I heard a machine that sounded like someone snoring. So I'm wondering what that was.
Sounded like what?
Something else we can do, we can ask them when they're doing something, we can say, what are you doing? I just want to know
since I'm
doing.
blind, they can say anything, honey.
Well, that's true, but at least we can start.
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, well, they could tell you anything.
That's true, but at least it's a start. Maybe they won't, if we just sit there and let them do it, that's not, might as well speak up.
Yeah.
Right. There's half a chance,
Yes, I'm here.
Well, that's the other situation we need to be wary about. Is any of us that are disabled, we need to worry about, these home medical people. Well, not home health care exactly. That's a whole nother issue, but like these medical practices that'll come to your home and then they contract with some company like LabCorp, where they can come and draw your blood if the doctor orders blood. It's usually some nurse. Well, I fired one of these people because I didn't have diabetes, but she wanted to give me metformin, and that would have put me into hypoglycemia, and I could have went into a coma, right?
I guess. Wow.
Well, I tell you what happened is they did some just regular blood work, and she calls back and she says, your A1C is about 6. Okay, that's not diabetes.
I have no clue.
Yeah, and she's just really rough, and
it's interesting.
I don't know. And then she ordered up like $5,000 worth of blood work, and I always ask, well, what are you ordering?
Yeah.
And just basic body checkup kind of stuff cannot come to any $5,000, I don't think.
No.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
That's interesting. Well, diabetes seems to be something that I hear about. I mean, I know Melinda had it or has it. I'm not sure. My doctor tried to talk me into the fact that I might have diabetes. Did my family have it? No. Well, your sugar's a little high. Like how high? Well, it could be, just like dancing around it, but wanting to put me on medication for diabetes. I don't think so.
Well, what medicine? Was it metformin also?
But he didn't. I wouldn't. I know he didn't say what it was. He just, well, I think we should prepare. To keep you from getting.
Excuse me. This is Melinda.
Yes,
dear. And you just exposed, but anyway. Yes, A1C is high. Is high. I would not. It's high, out of the normal range, and I would go work on your diet rather than take metformin or anything else. I lowered mine to 5.4 with food. Diabetes gourmet diet. It's beautiful. The recipes are phenomenal and easy to make, and fresh food. And I measure like 90, 93 blood glucose every day. So you can do without metformin.
And this is what happened.
Point is high.
And I've done a lot of research on metformin, and it's one of the worst, absolute worst medications you can take.
Oh, doesn't it give you the diarrhea like you wouldn't believe it?
No, nothing does that to me.
On it, and do not take that drug.
But here's what happened. Interesting enough, they're finding out
and cinnamon and all kinds of.
That metformin helps with some kind of cancer, but that is still experimental stage, so don't even think about it. But meanwhile, don't take it. Don't try it with diet. You can do it with diet.
This is what I'm getting ready to tell you, because when they redrew it, it was lower. It was under, so they didn't say anything more about. I told them. See, this is what happened. I called the pharmacy to get my medicine, and they said they've ordered metformin, and I said, I told them that I want to try holistic stuff because a lot of this stuff will just really mess up, like you just said. And I told the pharmacist what my figures were when they got the lab work back, and she immediately exclaimed, "Oh, my God," and slammed the phone down like, they wanted to give you that? And it also says in my records, will discuss with the physician, because this was just a registered nurse. So the physician, when I saw him, he never said a word about it. And then when I went to the hospital about 2 months ago, they poked my finger and it was 115, which is normal because they want it between, 90 and 120? So.
Can I say something to Frank right quick? Frank, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Did you hear about Don?
Dawn. Okay, no, I didn't. You want to tell me?
He's locked up.
Okay, this is the Dawn that comes on here probably
from Mississippi.
28, 30 years old.
I don't know how old he is. I know he's from Mississippi.
Jackson, Mississippi.
Yes.
He's a good guy. Where is he locked up? Do you know?
I don't know. I had got worried because I hadn't heard from him. I called a lot of TIs last weekend, and he was one of the ones I called. His phone's disconnected, and I tried again. It's disconnected. But I did call Ashley, and Ashley said she hadn't heard from him, and she tried to reach some people, and she reached some. She said his daughter's mother. His kid's mother. I think it's his son, and she said he's locked up.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is it one of these deals where where he has to stay there for 30 days, and then they'll reevaluate?
I didn't even know he was locked up. His phone was disconnected every time I tried, so I don't know.
Oh,
and I know he haven't been on Frank's call or Mike's call. So
that's why I'm worried about. worried about Nikki, because when I came back from the hospital, they have you on this stuff that just makes you really, I don't know what the word is right now.
Loopy.
But
Loopy.
yeah, well, that's not only that, but they hooked up all this electronic-y stuff while I was gone.
We need to talk to Kathy Meadows. We have like a half a dozen people locked up now.
Oh, Lord, this is worse. Getting worse every day, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a woman, Tricia, down south, who has a young boy. The young boy called me in the middle of the night saying that my mommy got taken away and it was something to do with a 44 Magnum. And, I talked to Karen about it, and Karen said, well, there's not much we can do if there's firearms involved. And I had to agree. She went right to jail. So
there's a possibility that I'll be next to be locked up. I got that court order for a psychiatric evaluation, which I'm refusing to do.
Can you
I don't care.
All right, you know my email probably, but it's frank@targetedmassachusetts.org. You send me all your information and your area and what court and what hospitals you think it would be. And, I will call everyone if that happens.
Okay.
All right?
I'll be thinking of you. I'm keeping in my thoughts that,
First name, sir?
they'll leave you alone.
What's your
I
first?
just don't. Go ahead.
My name's Steve. Steve from Georgia.
Okay, yeah. All right, Steve. Gotcha. I think I already have all your information, but.
Yeah, you should. Steve Grogan from Georgia.
All right. I've probably got a million Steves to realize that. Oh, boy. Okay. Yeah, that's what we have to watch out for. There's a lot of people getting just locked up for nothing. So if you see a police officer coming towards you, just try and act as natural and calm and cool and collected as you can, because they are testing the community. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Well, what really bothers me is the woman that works for me, helps me out around here. She was brutalized very badly by her domestic partner, and he's out. He was in jail, and he's been calling her, and I just don't understand why they didn't give him any shock therapy. Because after what he did to her, and we think he's also abused his little son, because every time he comes around his son wets himself. So, and they're letting him run around loose, and they're putting. I just can't figure it out.
In my job, I deal with the police a lot. I'm a record driver, and it's and my situation deals directly with the police. They were the ones who targeted me. They ran me out of my home. I've lost my wife of over 23 years. I've lost my home. I'm basically destitute. And I'm working with these police officers on some of these wrecks and accident scenes where we recover vehicles. I can kind of, I don't know what it is, but I can kind of sense a lot of times that most of them don't know anything about it, but there's a few that do. And I can always just got a sense, this feeling, when I get around one of them that knows what's going on. I'll get these looks from them, or, I don't know. It's just really strange that I get these feelings that I know they know something. I don't know what they know. Somebody's told them, hey, watch out for this guy. He's a psychopath, or he's some kind of maniac, or whatever they've told them. Because I just get these looks from these guys, and it's really strange.
They probably have your name listed in their computer.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't get it from all of them. It's just certain ones.
Well, certain ones probably look you up, and that's it.
And some of them are overly nice, which is really strange also.
Yeah. I don't know. I hear in the mental health world, if you go in voluntary, I did that because of the medical mistake, and you have more say over. Like if this one medicine is
Yes,
making
if you
you
go
really
involuntary,
upset.
you can go out. You can say, I want to leave, and they have to let you leave.
No,
If it's
they
involuntary, you can't leave until they say you can leave.
No, it's exactly the opposite, James.
No, I don't
I think
believe
it goes
that.
from state to state, and
If
your
you go
insurance too.
involuntarily, how can they hold you?
They do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
I've
if
been
you go
1013 one
involuntarily,
time.
then you can leave. It's just like a regular medical visit.
No.
Because people do that all the time.
No.
Yeah, I
when
think that's the way.
when
I
they
think that's
take
the way it
you
is in Georgia.
involuntarily, they don't have to let you leave. That's what happened to people all over the place.
No, because
Yeah, I got 1013 one time already, and that's what happened with me. They didn't have to let me leave until a certain time, and if they had deemed me to be violent or dangerous, they wouldn't
Yes,
have to
and
let
they'll
me
put a
leave
watch
then.
on you. They'll have
Yeah.
people watch you. Oh my God, what the hell uses that?
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody gets 1013 in one of these places, watch what you say or do, because they will have you there indefinitely.
Yeah, those people watching you will write down everything you say and do, as though it's going to be like some.
Oh, they do too.
Make sure they don't produce a recording, okay? Because the recording, unless they have asked you previously, is inadmissible. It cannot be transcribed. It cannot be used against you because they didn't tell you that they were recording you.
Right.
Part of Miranda.
Does that go for like phone tapping your phone also, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. But if you're arrested and they start recording things, that goes against your Miranda rights.
Okay.
What about the right to be silent thing?
Doesn't mean they still won't use it for intel,
They don't
but.
go with that anymore.
Really?
They can do anything to you.
They can use it. They can use it to sway a case. And if you're argumentative or you even struggle a little bit, forget it. You're gone. Just do whatever they say. And the best thing you can do is say, yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Right.
That shows.
Yeah, when they 1013 me, they want to put me on a bunch of drugs and stuff, and I said, look, I came in here, I wasn't on all these drugs. They kept insisting that I try these drugs. So finally, I gave in, and I took one of the pills that they gave me, and it made me feel terrible. And then they wanted me to take more drugs, and I told them, no, I'm not taking any more drugs. And so finally, they released me. Finally.
How can you refuse that? Can you refuse that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Use it, you can.
You can't refuse getting turned 1013. You can refuse the drugs when you get there. But if they 1013 you, the cops come to your house and take you at gunpoint and handcuff you, throw you in the back of the police car, and take you to a mental hospital.
Jeez.
Oh Lord. Well, what's difference between that and a 302 and a 5150?
I'm not sure.
Different state.
Wow.
Thing.
Probably.
Then they have the
5150 is a 72-hour hold, I think.
Well, they have the Baker Act in Florida, and the Baker Act is in, I think, several other states have used it.
Yeah, that's a terrible thing.
I thought
they increased it.
Yeah, this was all due to the V2K. They were using V2K, and they were actually coming around my house in the middle of the night, sneaking around. I had my wife and children inside the house, and I actually have seen them on one or two occasions sneaking around my house. And so I went outside with an automatic rifle looking for these guys, and I kept doing this, and it kept aggravating me with the V2K, and they were laughing about it. He thinks somebody's under the house, ha, 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 all this kind of stuff, just tormenting me constantly with this crap. So that I would grab my rifle, run outside, and try to find out who's in my yard, sneaking around, peeping in my windows, spying on my little children, naked in the house. Some kind of pervert's out there is what's going through my mind. Or some thief is trying to steal something or hurt my family. So I'm trying to protect my family and my wife and everybody. They all see this going on, and they think I'm going crazy because they don't hear any of it because they're using this V2K technology. and they don't see any of it, you know, and it's really a terrible thing. They did that to intentionally make my family think I was crazy and run me out of my home. And my wife, you know, me and her are currently going through a divorce after 23 years of marriage. I lived in this town for over 20 years, never had a problem with anybody until these cops moved in next door.
They will break up families. They will make your
about
wife
that.
and you fight. Mind control. It works.
Yeah.
People are sick.
I fell right into their trap.
You know, I have to go in for what is it? Aggravate? No. Well, I was yelling outside. I can't remember the thing, but my handler told the police. They had a grand jury, a secret indictment, and on there they put that that I had a flashlight that I couldn't keep lit, and I had 20 batteries, and all of them died. And the handler's telling this to the grand jury that I'm crazy because, oh my God, what's he saying here about his batteries and his flashlight won't work? You know, they could drain the batteries with the ELS. Right. That's what they do. And the handler is telling the grand jury that I said that. And, you know, that's a big joke because they did it.
Yeah. Well, you know, most people don't understand this technology that's out there. It's kind of a foreshadow in my life. I picked this hitchhiker up one time years ago, and he started telling me all these stories similar to what's going on with me right now. And I thought, you know, this guy's crazy. There's no way. He said they put microchips in him and all this kind of stuff. And it was kind of like God saying, here's what's coming to you, giving me a foreshadow of what's coming in my life. And, you know, at the time when the guy told me all this stuff, this hitchhiker I picked up years ago, I just thought the guy was crazy. You know, it seemed like he was a decent guy and everything. Didn't seem dangerous or anything, but he did seem like he was crazy because I had no comprehension or understanding whatsoever that this stuff is actually real.
Now you know.
Yeah. That's why it's so hard for other people to believe. I think it's just so, it doesn't sound, it sounds unrealistic, you know.
And then you find these people, well, he was right.
It's like telling somebody that the Enterprise just went into orbit around the planet. You know what I mean?
The what?
The U.S. Enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think there's people like Ted Gunderson. He was perfectly sane, and they had people saying he was crazy and that he was trying to kill his wife. He was trying to do this and that. He was a pedophile. He wasn't anything of the kind. He was trying to help, and he was trying to uncover all the pedophilia, and they were nailing him.
Well, depending on your insurance, hopefully. Well, this is the other thing I've noticed too, is the doctor said that depending on your insurance, if you decide to leave, then you can leave on your own esteem. I mean, they won't come after you. You never said that. I see. This is just
if
what
you're on a 72-hour hold, it's 72 hours, and then they put you in court, and you have to. I don't know. They can decide that you're crazy, and you can't. I don't know what they do then.
So
yeah, I know.
Policeman, he shoots you. I mean, is he going to shoot you dead, or just incapacitate you and then take you to the hospital?
No,
they're going to kill you if they shoot you.
What that shooting is. Everybody's shooting these things. You know, in another country, they would try to wound the person, but here, if they fire one bullet, they fire 10.
Yeah, they want to make sure they kill you. A dead man can't talk.
That's right.
Right. Tell what's all been going on. I mean, some of the stuff they got here, like this shot that they give you between your shoulders at Taldol, and it's like a 30-day shot, time release. I mean, that kind of stuff just scares the hell out of me.
It's weaponized psychiatry.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, this country feels more and more like Moscow to me, even though I've never been to Russia or anything like that. It's like,
That was probably
sometimes I wonder if I should just go along with it and just act like I'm crazy. Maybe get some kind of disability check started to help me with my finances.
no.
I don't know.
Put you out.
You could do that, but the thing with that is the mental health clinic might want to become your payee, and then you won't have any money.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
right.
I've heard
I don't think that's a good idea, but the thought has crossed my mind. You know,
they'll take your money until you're dead.
Okay, one at a time.
Yeah, the thoughts crossed my mind to do that, but I don't think I will. Like I said, I'm not even going to go for the psychiatric evaluation. I'm just going to let them lock me up.
Well, that doesn't look good. That shows.
Well, they're going to lock you up anyway, won't they?
That shows an evasive maneuver on your part, and that's going to. The constable's going to come pick you up, and you're going to have to pay for the constable, and they're going to bring you before the court, and you've done two things. Now you have a bench warrant, which is a legal matter, and so it's better off if you go to court, clean cut with a suit, tie,
Rather than being like a convict, yeah.
If you don't have one, borrow it,
Do you think I should just go to that psychiatric evaluation and just don't tell them anything about D2K and just
don't tell them anything about that. No. Nope, don't tell them anything. Say, I'm fine. Do you hear voices? No, I don't. Just be totally normal. Put a suit and tie on, get a haircut, look good, go in there, and they'll probably do the same thing, but you won't have two charges against you.
Bring a tape recorder and tell them to tape.
So I'm talking like 30, 90 days in jail at the max.
Excuse me?
But I'm afraid that they will try to murder me in jail, though.
Yeah, you don't want to go to jail. If there's a bench warrant, you're going to end up possibly going to jail or to a state hospital for a longer time.
Okay.
May I suggest that you don't say offer anything? They're making you go, so they should have the questions. If they just say, go ahead and tell me about yourself, I'd just say, well, what do you want to know? I wouldn't offer a lot. The less you say, the better off you are.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I actually got asked. Go ahead.
They're the ones who are making you go, so it's not on you to decide what to talk about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Exactly right, Linda. Right on the money.
Yeah. That's what I'd do.
And depending on your insurance, the only time you might have to do is just the 3-day, evaluate and see how you're doing. You might even be able to go home in less time. I've heard of that happening.
So this is like an outpatient psychiatric evaluation, I think. It's court ordered, but I've been court ordered twice now, and I still haven't complied.
Okay, what are you doing wrong? And who are you?
It's all circles around the situation with my wife and the divorce. She requested the judge send me for psychiatric evaluation. He ordered me to go to psychiatric evaluation when she took out a permanent protective order on me to keep me away from the house. And I asked the judge or the lady in the courtroom, well, who's supposed to pay for this? And she said, you are. I said, well, I guess I won't be going then, right in front of the judge and everybody.
Yeah.
And nothing else was said about it. They released me. I got released from court that day or whatever. And then I violated the TPO. Well, first the TPO, which was later turned into a PPO. I violated the TPO, and now I'm on misdemeanor probation for a nonviolent violation of a TPO. I just went over there to get some of my tools and stuff to work with at my house. So it's a misdemeanor, 1-year probation, which is also part of the probation requirements is go for psychiatric evaluation.
Okay, and they can also make you go to a probation officer.
Yeah, I have to do that once
a week and screw up your employment.
Yeah, they've been trying to do that for a while. I'm just really fortunate in my job that I've got. I've been here for a while, and I'm a pretty good technician. So fortunately, I've been able to hold on to that. That's the only thing I've been able to hold on to. I've told my whole family what's going on. None of them believe me.
As follows.
I think maybe one of my daughters is starting to kind of come around a little bit. You know, they're either understanding that whatever the situation is, they need to help me, whether I'm actually mentally ill, you know, which I know I'm not. But, you know, that's what I told my daughter. I was like, you know, well, okay, let's just say that I am imagining all this and I am crazy. That's all the more reason why you should help me, you know? And I think that's played on her heart a little bit, and she seems to be wanting to help more.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that's just a terrible situation. I don't know what to do. I lost two homes, 7 acres of land, and my wife of over 20 years, and my youngest son who's now 14. I don't get to see him very often, and it's really hard on me. It really is. And any of you guys that want to call me anytime and talk about any of this stuff, that'd be great. I need all the support I can get. It's really hard for me some days to just go on with life. I want to really do something stupid sometimes, like try to take revenge out on these people, but I know better than to do that.
Yeah, don't
but
do that.
Still, the thoughts run through my mind, some pretty radical thoughts sometimes. And
Steve, give me a call at 508 857 824 and give me a call anytime. I'll talk to you.
Okay, man.
You know, today I had I had that court thing. I had to go to trial, and I have another thing coming up, and they are trying to get me to act out. One thing they did today was that I don't know if anybody's ever had their esophagus like frozen. You're like I was eating something like, well, I was eating applesauce, and the last bite I swallowed it, and it wouldn't go down. They can freeze your esophagus, so you can't swallow, and it won't come back up. Or what it does is like projectile vomit.
Yeah.
And that's what they were doing, and I could not get it to stop, and it makes you feel sick.
Yeah, I've had that happen.
They've done that to me so many times it isn't funny.
I wonder if that's what happened to me with that medical mistake where they, instead of putting me in the medical unit for observation, they put me, well, you know, where. And
Well, if
they
you're
tried to
targeted,
feed me.
yes, they can